let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. On the road. Let's see. All right. Get that out of the way. Oops, hold on. That's at the end of the slides here. Let's get to the beginning. Here we go. All right. So welcome to, this is one of my newer sessions. It's called the Many Faces of Sketchnotes. I may have worded it differently in the on the schedule, Versatile World of Sketchnotes. I forget what I call it. It changes from time to time, but we're going to be focusing on Sketchnotes here, and we're going to be giving a big shout out to a good friend of mine, Sylvia Duckworth, who's been kind of my mentor when it comes to sketchnoting, and has really empowered me to bring sketchnoting to my students and my teachers, and really been a great support there. So this is part of my Ditch That Copier series. Now, Ditch That Copier was originally developed for non-distance learning for the way it used to be. Is so many teachers were married to that copier, and we all have a horror story of how the copier may have ruined a lesson. And so that's why I kind of started Ditch That Copier. And if you're looking at that, it sounds familiar. Like, did he rip off Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook? I'm like, sort of a little bit. It is inspired by Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook, but the sticker you see there on the slide here is the official Ditch That Copier sticker. And I gave Matt Miller a sticker, and he loved it. He put it on his laptop. So I'm not really ripping off Matt Miller. He actually is very supportive of my Ditch That Copier movement. So let me go ahead and introduce myself again here. I'm Adam Juarez. I'm a tech integration coach for Cutler-Orosi Joint Unified School District. I work with the grades 6 through 12. This is now my 16th year as an educator. First 9 years, I was U.S. and world history teacher for middle school and high school. In the last 5 years, I've been a technology integration coach. It's been a great ride as in that role. I'm going to travel the world and meet a lot of great people like you guys right now. You guys are what we like to call the Saturday teachers. It's Saturday morning, and you're sitting there right now at home, and you're learning, you're getting better, and that just it amazes me, and it keeps me going. So again, you have all my contact information here, my personal email address, my website, techcoachjuarez.com, where I house all of my training resources, a bit.ly there to subscribe to my blog. At least once a week, I'm shooting out blogs with helpful EdTech tips, and the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of me is on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at TechCoachJuarez. Give me a follow. I always follow back, and we can continue to build our network. Before we really jump into this, I just want to say how excited I am to be presenting here with this joint venture here with Orange County Q and QLA. I live up here near Fresno, and first day we've had blue skies in a long time. But Orange County Q, I'm really glad I finally get to actually do one of your events, because I'm originally from Orange County. I was born in Orange, at St. Joseph's Hospital right there off 22. I used to live in San Juan Capistrano. All my family's all down there. It's spent much of my life going back and forth. So I'm really glad to be connecting with my SoCal peeps here today. So yeah, Orange County is a special place in my heart. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this party started. Let's talk about why sketchnoting. Like, why would we even do this? I mean, where I work, we've been an avid national demonstration school for years, and they've always been pushing Cornell notes. Now they've kind of changed that to focused note taking. And why Sketchnote? Well, Sketchnote, as you can see in this little infographic here, it uses both sides of the brain. I like the part where it says here, it's not about art, it's about the ideas. A lot of times kids and teachers are like, oh, I can't draw very well. I'm like, well, I'm not worried about your art skills. I want to see how you can visually represent ideas and concepts. Like it says there, capture your thinking. And a lot of times, just taking normal, traditional notes via just text, it doesn't really capture, the essence of what you're learning. And Sketchnotes is a very way to really tap into both sides of the brain and get kids to really be creative with their note taking. I find that kids are more likely to go back and look at a sketch note than just a regular set of good old fashioned Cornell notes in a spiral notebook. It's much more fun to look at as a teacher. If you're one that likes to grade notes and have kids turn them in, it's much more fun as a teacher to look at sketch notes than regular notes, because with a sketch note, you can see visually very quickly what they're thinking is, what their ideas. You can see their creativity shining through, and it really allows you to probably have a much, I wouldn't say a better gauge, but maybe a different way, method of gauging whether the kids really understand it. It's one way to write it, but when you can draw it, it really stands out of how you can represent what you've learned. So what can you sketch now? Pretty much anything. So I, I tell people that, sketch notes can be done here. You can assign some reading from a section out of a book. They can listen to a lecture. They can look for the themes of a novel. If you can sketch note an article. You can sketch note what you watch in a video. And probably my first step into sketchnoting, one of the first steps I always do when I teach it, is to start with written notes. So kids are more likely to have experience doing written notes, whether it's Cornell focus notes or however, 3-column notes, whatever you want to call it, and take any handwritten notes, then transform them into a sketch note. Again, I'll go back to my experience working at a school that's big on Avid. And one of the things that they always talk about is revising your notes, reflecting and revising your notes in metacognition, thinking about your thinking. And I think a sketch note is a great way to check all those boxes, to reflect on your thinking, and to revise your notes. If you've taken a set of handwritten notes, and then the ultimate revision and reflection is to transform that into a sketch note. So if you're working at a place that's big on Avid and that whole note-taking process, and you want to look for a way to kind of spice up your note reflections, tell them take your notes and transform them into sketch notes. So again, just pretty much anything that you learn can be sketch noted. And I would really encourage you right now, if you are taking notes right now, to sketch note while we are during this session, any of the ideas that you come up with, sketch note it. We are going to do a little practice sample sketch note at the end, so keep that in mind. So can our kids do it? Yes, they can. I've worked for years with our newcomers, kids who can hardly read and write in English or Spanish or any language for that matter, and I've seen them flourish with sketchnoting. So right now we're going to take a look at my all-time favorite sketchnote from the and it comes from the very first sketchnoting lesson I did during my first semester as a tech coach, when I started pushing out sketchnotes. And it came from I'll give you some background on this. It came from a teacher who was ready to retire. I mean, he brought me in to take over to do a demo lesson in his class. He's just looking for an easy day because he was counting the days till retirement. And one of them, so I taught him how to sketch note based off of a lesson that he had just taught in a 6th grade history class. So we're going to look at my all-time favorite sketch note, and the first time I ever taught kids how to do it, and it was obviously their first time. So if you have these slides here, which if we go back to the beginning, you have this bit.ly here, bit.ly/DTC sketch. So if you want to, these are slides that you can take with you, keep with you. So
and I put that in the chat, Adam, so everyone's got the bit.ly.
All right, cool. Thanks, Kim. So again, when you come to this slide, if you click on the Cardinal Innovation Center logo right here, this is going to take you to my favorite sketch note. This is some 6th grade sketch notes. Mind you, the kids that I've curated here, their sketch notes, virtually all of them are English learners. And we're going to come right here to this one right here. This is my all-time favorite one. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here for you guys. You guys can see that a little bit better. Let's see here. There we go. So this is my all-time favorite sketch note. And I want you to really focus on the imagery here. So number one, when I hear people say, well, Adam, I hear kids and teachers alike saying, well, I'm just not a good artist. Well, guess what? You don't need to be a good artist, because this student here, as a 6th grader, English learner, had never done sketch notes before. She's not a great artist, but she really captures the essence of what the lesson was. So quick background on this lesson. This is a 6th grade ancient history class. They were learning in a unit about the Roman Empire. They're learning about the Punic Wars. So if you don't have a history degree like me, here's the quick and dirty version of the Punic Wars. The teacher who actually taught the lesson said the Punic Wars were it was like a 3-round boxing match between Rome and their North African rival Carthage. And Rome and Carthage were battling to see who could control the Mediterranean region. So in the first war, he says it was like the first round of the boxing match. Rome won, and then Carthage came back in round two, and they struck the victory. But the way they struck the victory in round two was pretty significant because Carthage had a very an innovative general named Hannibal, and in the battle against Rome, he used elephants in battle to charge against the Roman soldiers and scare them to death. Well, Roman soldiers had never seen elephants before. And he said they used the elephants like the way our army uses tanks today. So I want you to focus here on the section that says War Number 2. And you can see how the student captured that really powerful metaphor of how elephants were used as tanks. So if you look here, you see a poorly drawn elephant and a poorly drawn tank with an equal size. So instead of just writing down that fact, they represented it visually with this little mathematical expression here with poorly drawn. It's poorly drawn, but you get the message. You can know nothing about Roman history, but you can see this and actually figure it out. So again, it's the sketch note allows the kid to really express these ideas in a manner that we've never seen before, or maybe they've never done before. So this student, as an English learner, definitely sketching this information is really going to help them. So I also want to take a look at War Number 3 over here. So what had happened here is in War Number 3 that the teacher in his lesson talks about how War Number 3, Rome came with the knockout punch. They were going to make sure that Carthage would never rise again. So in his mini lecture about War Number 3, he talks about how the Romans sailed to Carthage. They burnt the city to the ground. They sold the Carthage prisoners into slavery, and then they salted the fields so nothing could ever grow in Carthage again, and Carthage could never rise and threaten Rome's superiority over the Mediterranean region. So if you take a look here, simple stick figure. We have the Roman soldiers here with salt shakers in the fields. We have some poorly drawn houses that are obviously on fire. So really capturing those main ideas and concepts, with simple drawings. And I will say that the teacher remarked after they took their assessment on this lesson, he said that they had done better than ever before. The kids were using their sketch notes to study, and a phrase I like to use with sketch notes is how it tattoos it in your brain. It's the information is stored in your brain much more concretely when you use sketch note rather than just simply putting text. But if we take a look at this sketch note, I'm going to go through the anatomy of how to teach kids how to do it. We have right here, you notice that there were 3 components to the lesson, and the kid I like to call this an organic graphic organizer. So the kid learned, okay, there's 3 components to what I'm learning here. There's 3 wars. So the student here, she divided her paper into 3 sections. She wasn't given a graphic organizer. The sketch note became the graphic organizer. She learned that, okay, my notes here, I have a little bit of information about War 1, and I have much more about War Number 2 and War 3. So she dedicated more space in larger portions of the paper to, the areas that had more information, that required more more sketches. So again, the kid created her own graphic organizer for the way that her brain works, not just preset like if we were to go to the copier and run it off and give it to them and tell them, here's how you're going to organize the information. She did it herself. And if we scroll down to see some of the other ones, you're going to see a lot of similarities. We're going to see that elephant always showing up here in some of these. This student here was actually a little bit better of an artist, but you start to see the commonalities in a lot of these different sketch notes here. Again, these ones I'm showing you now are probably students who are probably better at the art, but I always like to show this one because you don't have to be a great artist. It's all about organizing and portraying the information. Okay, so again, can kids do it? Yes, they can. Kids of all ability levels can do it. It just takes some time to get them to be confident with it. All right, so let's talk about a great resource for you to get started with sketchnoting is my good friend here, Sylvia Duckworth. Now, Sylvia Duckworth, she literally wrote the book on sketchnoting. She has 2 books out. One that's more of a general sketchnoting one about drawing symbols, and then the one we see here, this one here is the step-by-step manual for teachers and students. It's more classroom focused. So I've had the privilege of hanging out with Sylvia Duckworth a few times at ISTE over the years, and she really has really inspired me. And she actually uses my students' sketch notes when she presents around the world. So I'll start getting Twitter messages when she gives me a shout out. So she's been very, very supportive of that. So I'm very grateful for, she's really empowered me to continue with sketchnoting. And I want to do the same for you guys. If you guys are, if you are taking this plunge and you're going to start having kids sketchnote and you're gathering them up, definitely use her hashtag SketchnoteFever so your students can have more eyes on their sketch notes. And she'll definitely she'll be a great resource there to support you and promote you. And again, you can follow her on Twitter here. This is a link right to her Twitter account here, and you can give her a follow. She's definitely worth a follow here. Another good resource is her good friend Jen Giffen here. I'm not going to play the video here, but here's how she it was a real shot in the arm. She raved about the sketch notes that my students were doing, and sent me a video just kind of talking about it and just how, what she sees kids, the creativity comes out of kids when she was looking at my students' sketch notes. So that's not just true of my kids, it's true for all kids. And it's just a great testimony on how sketch notes can really are very empowering for students. I guess that's the right word I'm looking for. All right, so let's give you a practical example here of how sketchnotes have done. Again, this is a teacher that I've coached for years now. Her name is Dana Job. Dana used to work with me at Orosi High School out here, and last year she moved to a different school closer to home. So good for her, but I'm really missing working with her. But Dana, and as I was coaching her, sketchnotes came up in her as a high school biology teacher, and she was getting ready for one day for an observation. So she called me in and wanted to pick my brain about what she could do, probably to use the technology in her I'm drawing a blank here, in her observation lesson. So one of the big pushes at that time that our school was doing was academic conversations. So she's like, I have an idea, and it helped me kind of come up with this. And she's like, I want to get academic conversations with the sketch notes. So how could I do this? So, I coached her up, but she came up with this pretty much on her own. She made up this, I call it a recipe here, where she uses sketch notes and academic conversations using Screencastify. So the sketch notes, for the most part, she had been really running with the sketch notes. And what she did, she would have them sketch out every week, and that was the major part of their grade. And so every time she would collect the sketch notes, she'd send them to me. I would scan them, and I would put them on the Cardinal Innovation Center website, so the kids can always go back to and refer to them in the future for review and other activities. So she's like, hey, all those sketch notes that you have put on the website, what if we had the kids use those old sketch notes for spiral review, but we use them as like a platform, a jumping off point for academic conversations. So she's like, well, if I was to do an academic conversation in class, I'm just doing 2 kids in front of the class talking about it. That's just 2 kids at a time. The rest are just kind of standing there passively. How can we get all kids involved? So this is the idea she came up with. She's like, all right, you're going to go you're going to be paired with a partner, and you're going to choose a sketch note from the Cardinal Innovation Center website. It's a sketch note that we have done. You have to choose one that, if it's yours, it can't be yours. You have to choose one that was done by someone else. And what's going to happen is that they're going to kind of they're going to review the sketch note that they've chosen with their, each person in the pair chooses a sketch note, and they jot down some information, some talking points for 2 minutes worth of talking points. So after they've kind of prepared, partner A is going to, on their Chromebook, use Screencastify, and they're going to pull up that sketch note on their Chromebook, and then Screencastify, they're going to click record, and they're going to spend 2 minutes minimum explaining the concepts portrayed in that sketch note. And partner B, they have to sit there and ask clarifying questions to make sure partner A talks for at least 2 minutes. And then once partner A is done kind of presenting, then partner B will they will flip roles. So then partner B is going to switch with partner A, and partner B is going to be the one with presenting their sketch note on their Chromebook and recording that Screencastify at the same time. So what each kid will do when they're done, they will submit a recording of their academic conversation with their partner in Google Classroom. And now she has a record of every student participating in an academic conversation using those sketch notes. The sketch notes were kind of the foundation for that for the academic conversation. And I will say that observation went very well for her. But again, you know, we're at a Q event right now. We're talking about technology, and sketch notes are very paper and pencil. But this is a great way that we can use paper and pencil stuff and smash it with technology and really achieve some kind of a learning goal that you set for yourself. So I like to give a big shout out for Dana Job for coming up with this great Sketchnote academic conversation recipe. So again, you have this slide here for you. Feel free to take this idea and run with it. It's not, she doesn't own it, I don't own it. It's a great idea, and we're all here to learn with each other. So we're gonna take a look here at some student samples. I already showed you some of my old all-time favorite ones, but I'm gonna go over some different student samples here, and you can find more at the Cardinal Innovation Center website. This is the link right here that's clickable. You click on the student portal and scroll down to the Sketchnotes gallery, so it would look something like this. You click on there, it takes you to the Cardinal Innovation Center website. Click on the student portal, and scroll down, Sketchnotes gallery, and they are curated by, we have high school and middle school. So if you want to see high school ones, you click here, and up here we have them by grade level. So you're like, okay, I teach a 10th grade page. We have them curated by by subject. Math here is not as robust as ELA science and social science. So if we take a look here, social science, we have different different topics in which kids have done their sketch notes, all curated here on this website. So you have that this link here that will take you to it. So let's take a look at some other student samples here. So if you're like, hey, I teach 9th grade science, you click there, we're gonna scroll down. These are actually from who I just talked about, my old colleague, Dana Job. These are mainly from her class, because she was she was big time on this. So here we have one about atomic bonds. Again, these are all done by students from reading, from lectures, from videos. These are all student-made sketch notes, and many of which are English learners, which is a huge thing here in California. Let me get rid of some of these tabs here. So we have other ones if you were looking for English language arts. There's some senior sketch notes here. Some of these are done from, here we have one here about, I believe this was an article about life after high school, an article that they had read. So these are done by some senior. This is an excellent one right here. You can tell the student really took the time to really put some effort and thinking into it. So again, these are all student samples. I'm not going to go through all of them there, but definitely wanted to share this with you. Oops. We'll take a quick look here at the 10th. Man, my computer is going nuts here. Here we go. 10th grade world history. These are actually a lot of them from the classes that I've taught. So we're looking. We have a lot of stuff here on World War II. That World War II definitely lends itself to sketchnoting. So again, here there's a lot of different options for you to go there and take a look at. Feel free to browse through the Sketchnote galleries, the different ones. Again, the ELA, science, and social studies have the most. Math is still trying to get them on board with sketchnoting. We have a few, not as much as I would like, but feel free to go to this website anytime. And if you want to use them as student exemplars to teach your kids, definitely go ahead and you can copy and paste them, throw them on some slides. They're free for you to use. I'm not copyrighting them at all, so definitely use this as a resource. So when should I have kids sketch notes? When should I do it? Well, pretty much any time during the learning process. You know, it's great for spiral review. That's a big buzzword that I know our superintendent likes to throw at us about, you know, spiral review and, you know, when are we going to be doing this? So we have a quick question here. do we have more examples at the middle school level? And yes, we do. So if you go to the website there, you click on the middle school Sketchnote gallery. There's tons of them there for you. So great question there, Kelly. They can have them do it while they're watching the video. You can do them as a scavenger, and I'll talk about that one later. It can be used as assessment. I've used a Sketchnote as an assessment where I said, okay, here's our topic that we talked about this week. Here are the main points that we covered. Now Sketchnote it. And it was actually very enjoyable for me to grade Sketchnotes as an assessment, to really have the kids Sketchnote in class in front of me. Obviously, we can't do it's a little bit more difficult now, but you can use it as an assessment. It can be formative, it can be summative, however you want to use it. It can be great for reflection on an event or a field trip. Again, we're not doing field trips right now, but if you're doing some virtual field trips, that plenty of those that you can find online, Sketchnote's a great way to reflect. It's great to do after reading. And again, one of my favorite ways to get kids started is to have them reflect on written notes, where they take their actual handwritten notes and transform those words, concepts, and ideas into a sketch note. So this is going to be what I could call your starter kit. How do you get your kids started? So first of all, you want to identify what you want kids to sketch note. What are the main points that you want kids to sketch note? That's the first step by far. So we got something in the chat here. Oh, thank you there, Kim. So again, identify what is it that you want them. Give them some kind of I wouldn't say a rubric, but maybe really be explicit in what you want kids to focus on while when they get to the actual sketch note. What are the learning goals or the main ideas that you want them to do, and have them just kind of be like a general outline of what it's going to be. Don't give them specific details, but broad details. Let them fill in specifics with their sketch note. Oops. There we go. So step 2 here, you're going to teach them the 4 steps of sketchnoting. At least this is the way that I always teach it. So other people may have a different method, but this is what's worked for me. So the first step in a sketch note, determine the number of components and subcomponents. So if I'm reading, let's say I'm doing a lesson, a 7th grade standard, which is on Islamic empires, and part of it for social studies, that is a 7th grade standard. And one of the substandards has to be about some of the components of the Islamic religion. And so, and one of the things that you teach in there is that you touch upon is the 5 pillars of Islam. I'm going to throw that there as an example here. So I need to look, as a student, I'm going to look at what I'm learning from what I watched in a video, listened on a lecture, what I read from a textbook or article. How many components are there? So if I'm looking at an infographic of the 5 pillars of Islam, I'm going to say, all right, there are 5 pillars of Islam. That's 5 components. So once I determine the components and subcomponents, that's how I kind of divide my paper into it. I'm going to start dividing my paper into sections based on the amount of components, and I'm going to label each one, each component within a section. If there's one section that has more information, I might dedicate a larger space towards that. As I showed you guys earlier in the example with the Punic Wars from that 6th grader, from my favorite sketch note of all time. So in that case, she determined, well, there's 3 wars, so that means 3 components. So she divided her paper accordingly into 3 sections. And what that does, they become organic, student-generated graphic organizers. There's no having to go out and print out some kind of a mind map. You let the kids do it themselves. They're more likely for the information to really stick if they actually draw out that graphic organizer themselves rather than giving it to them pre-made. So once they've kind of determined how they're going to divide their paper based on the number of components, then they begin with the pencil sketches. 100% pencil, no colors, no pens, nothing but pencil sketches. And what that means is this is kind of like their rough draft. This is their first iteration here. So once they've kind of gone through and done everything in pencil, Then they're going to come back and reflect on again. Now, again, time permitting, in a best case scenario, now they're going to trace all of their pencil sketches so they can find a fine tipped, dark colored marker or pen. I actually, before COVID shut everything down, I have fine tipped Sharpies that kids would use to trace. And what the tracing does, it gives them a second repetition through it. And while they are tracing, they can catch mistakes. They can see a mistake. Oh, you know what? I need to go back there, grab my pencil, erase it, fix it, and then I trace it once I know that it's good. So it helps them catch mistakes and really reflect and iterate on the ideas. So once they've gone through the tracing, then they get the fourth step there is the color coding. So there's a lot of ways that they can color code. The way that I really try to get kids to really use the color, I'm not asking you to make it look super pretty. We're not just coloring like it's a coloring book. If you have the ability to do that, yeah, go ahead and make it look pretty. If you have the time and the will to do it, that's great. But when I say color coding, we're not coloring like a coloring book. So based on the amount of components, so let's say there's 7 parts that I've divided my paper into. Each part, I want to shade the background a different color. And by color coding that way, it really helps kids, their brains organize the information and compartmentalize by color coding in that fashion. So maybe ideas that are similar, maybe the same color, but ideas that are different are different colors, and it really helps the brain organize the information. And I know our avid teachers have really been big on the color coding. So, you know, if you have your paper divided into 8 sections, each section may be a different color shaded in the background. So when we say color coding, it's more of that than just coloring it to make it look nice and pretty. Okay, so your starter kit number 3 here is, again, if you're already in a hybrid model, or if you're ever gonna, when we do come back to a actual school, whenever that is, it would be like this. You would simply pass out your materials. I start with blank paper, just the paper that I would use to make copies. That becomes Sketchnote paper. So I still order copy paper, part of my classroom budget, but I don't use it for the copier. I use it for Sketchnotes. Kids, all they need is pencils, kind of fine tip markers for tracing, if possible. Colors, I prefer colored pencils than markers and crayons. I think the colored pencils give the kids more control over how they color code. It looks better when you scan colored pencil rather than markers. Sometimes come out a little too bold, and then the crayons come out very grainy. But the colored pencils, I think have worked best in my experience. And you want to give the kids a hard due date. Let's be honest, with kids in general, with almost anything. If you say, okay, I'm going to give you till tomorrow night at midnight, they're going to start doing it tomorrow night at 11:50 p.m. and rush through it. So you got to give them, you know, that a hard deadline. You don't want to give them too much time, because then they will take every last second of it. So you want to give them enough time to get it done, but at the same time, you want to kind of put that quote unquote mythical kind of gun to the head, so they have to know that, you know what, I got to get this done. I can't lollygag. But give them a hard deadline. Soft deadlines, the kids will kind of just, well, I'm just drawing, I'm just sketching, and I'm not going to take it as seriously. So again, I've always felt in my experience with Sketchnotes, having kids with a hard deadline, kids get it turned in a lot more promptly. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. So how can we adapt this for distance learning? So we're like, all right, you know what? How can we get this done in distance learning? Because sketchnoting is definitely probably best case scenario when we are back face to face, the way in the, I guess we can say it's the good old days before COVID. So again, in distance learning, I do encourage the use of paper and pencil notes, even here on video calls. So a couple ways to adapt Sketchnotes is to what I like to call speed Sketchnotes. One of my, if you are familiar at all with Edu protocols, one of my favorite Edu protocols is Fast and Curious, and I've adapted the Fast and Curious protocol to include what I call speed sketchnoting. So as I'm building vocabulary, after kids have gone through multiple times using quizzes on their vocabulary, what I would have them do is speed sketchnotes, so that I would get them in partners. and they would have one whiteboard, one marker with their partner. And what they would do, one partner had all the information, the other partner had the whiteboard marker, and they had to explain to their partner who has the marker on the whiteboard, and they'd have to sketch it out as quickly as they can and get feedback from the teacher, and then they would switch back and forth. So how can you kind of adapt that speed sketchnoting in a distance learning? So if you have kids on your Zoom calls or Google Meet, and they have access to a whiteboard and a marker, you could say, all right, we're going to take out, you can give them a term, give them a concept, and say, so if you're teaching a lesson on World War II, and we're talking about the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. So you said, okay, well, I'm going to give you 2 minutes on your whiteboard. Go ahead and sketch the atomic bomb at Hiroshima. And I've used a digital timer, and the kids, I can see them on the tile view, and they're all sitting there drawing. And when I tell them to time's up, they have to then show to the camera their whiteboard showing their sketch note. I give them 2 minutes to try to kind of really put all their information, as a sketch. So it's an easy way to get kids sketchnoting, while you are live on Zoom. I believe we have something here in the chat. Because you use Jamboard, yes, you could. Definitely could do that. With Jamboard, again, definitely that is an option. So thanks for bringing that up, Kelly. Another way is to, if you want kids to do sketch notes from lessons or readings, you can still do that in distance learning. And you do that by having them upload an image of their sketch notes to Google Classroom using the iOS app, the Android app, or even on a Chromebook. So what I'm going to be giving you guys right here, these are links that you can share with students that show them how to take an image of their work using the mobile apps. If they have the Google Classroom apps on their iPhone or their Android, they can show them how to use the camera to take a picture of their work and turn it into Google Classroom. And that way you have a record of their sketch notes right there within Google Classroom. There's no having to collect physical paper anymore. So for example, right here, if you were to click on the iOS one, here's a video that I made back in the spring. This video, take a look at it. And this shows you step by step how to use the actual app to upload the picture of their work. Same thing here goes for the Android app. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use. It was sitting outside on my patio, showing them how to do this. So if I go back just a little bit, let me find them. Almost there. There we go. So right here, as it shows you, when they open up the app, when they go to turn in their work, they can take photo as an option. So it opens up their camera right then and there. There's no having to take a picture and upload the file of it. It takes the picture right there from Google Classroom. It does it the same way on an Android and on an iPhone. I actually, the iOS app one I did on my iPad, but the iPad app is the same as it would be on an iPhone. It also shows you in this one here how to do it on a Chromebook. So this is one where they would have to actually use the Chromebook camera app. Hopefully your district has allowed the camera app to be accessible on district issued Chromebooks, so they can use the camera app, take a picture of their work. It's saved on the actual memory of the Chromebook, and then once they have it there, this one shows them how to upload the file image onto their Google Classroom. And technically, it can be done the same way on a Mac or a PC, whatever they're working on, as long as they have access to the webcam of their machine. So again, just 3 different ways here. I didn't show any way to do it on a Mac or a PC, just because that most kids are using these mobile apps or Chromebooks. Those are the most common ones that I've seen them use. So we're going to do some sketchnoting practice right now. So if you have a piece of paper handy and a pencil, we're not going to go through the whole process of sketchnoting with the color coding and the tracing and all that. We're just going to do pencil sketches. Okay, so what's going to happen right now in the next few minutes, you get to be the student here. And I have this video right here that you can definitely share. Well, the first time I teach it to a group of kids, I have them watch this video. It's a real simple video that shows the main steps of doing a sketch note. So feel free to use this video to show kids how to sketch note. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to use an old slide from a lesson that I taught years ago on the Civil War. And what I want you to do on one side of your paper, I want you just to jot down some regular handwritten notes. And then when it gets time to sketch note, you're going to take those handwritten notes and you're going to transform what you learned into a sketch note. So you get to be the student here. So I'll give you a second here to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. So on one side, regular notes, and on the back side, we're going to give you a few minutes to practice sketchnoting. This is a real good way to teach students the first time. You know, take your written notes and transform them into sketch notes. So hopefully about now you have something to write with and write on. So here's going to be, this is actually a lesson that I have taught. So this is what I call the Union battle strategies. This was from a lesson that I taught about during the Civil War, a lesson on the Civil War. So your main idea, your topic here is the Union battle strategy. So in the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln got all of his generals together as the commander-in-chief of the United States Army. And he said, how are we going to get we are not going to let the Confederacy, the South, break away. How are we going to beat them and bring them back and reunite our country? So as they're coming up with a battle strategy, one of the generals at the time, veteran general named Winfield Scott, comes up with a great idea, and he calls this idea, and you're going to want to write this down. It's called the Anaconda Plan. So the Anaconda Plan, as you can see right here in this drawing here, shows an anaconda going all the way surrounding the Confederate States of America. So Winfield Scott, in his wisdom, says, well, we're going to surround the Confederacy like an anaconda surround its prey. We're going to surround it. And then we're going to slowly squeeze in to where they cannot escape. And they're not going to be able to get help. They're going to run out of supplies. And slowly but surely, they're going to have to tap out. They're going to have to give up because they're not going to be able to maintain this war without getting support from outside countries. And we're going to cut them off from the rest of the world the same way that when an anaconda kills its prey, they suffocate you. And eventually you die. In this case, we're going to make them tap out. Hopefully that they would give up once they run out of supplies and the will to keep on fighting. So Winfield Scott called this the Anaconda Plan. So that's the quick and dirty version of this lesson here. So here's what you're going to do. What I'd like you to do for the next, we'll say 5 to 6 minutes, I want you to take the notes that you've written down from my little mini lesson here. And I want you to, on the back side of your paper or somewhere, or on a separate sheet of paper if need be, and I would like you to sketch note what you learned from this lesson here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to leave this up here if you need to refer back to the slide. So I'm going to say right now it is 10:26. At 10:31, we're going to reconvene. So it'll take about 5 minutes, and take any notes that you jotted down and transform them into a sketch note. So I will leave this up here, and I'll let you guys go ahead and practice your sketchnoting. Okay, it is 10:31. Hopefully you've got a few sketches down there. Let me get over to the slides here. So what one way that we can do you could do this with your students if you were to have them do a live sketch note right now where you just have them do pencil sketches only. You could do it where you have them hold up to their camera and share one at a time. That's one way to do it. But again, if you're working with a small group, I would definitely recommend that. But when you're working with a whole class of 30 kids, you know, that's a lot of time dedicated to the Zoom, just to sharing sketch notes like that. So here's, you could do the whole upload to Google Classroom later. Another way you can also do it is using Flipgrid. Flipgrid is my jam. I love me some Flipgrid. So what you can do here is, I'm going to ask you guys to do this as we kind of sign off here, is to, when you can do it now, you can do it later. I would really appreciate it because it allows me to get some feedback from you guys. If you on this slide to click the Flipgrid logo, and I put a minute 30 maximum video for you to reflect on what you've learned about sketchnoting, and also in your video, hold up the practice sketch notes that you did to the camera. So that way I can look at the video and I can see your sketch notes. Go ahead and share that with me. Just indulge me. It helps me become a better presenter. But this is an idea you could use with kids to have them hold up their sketch note and explain it, or you could have them summarize it and then hold it, and then you as a teacher can really kind of see their thinking both verbally and visually represented in their sketch note. So if you get a chance, you know, sometime today or tomorrow, whenever, take the sketch note you just did for practice. On this Flipgrid link, this logo right here is clickable. This is the old logo of Flipgrid. And just record a response, and then just hold your paper up and then talk about it and reflect on the whole sketchnoting process there. No, you don't need is it asking for a code? I will fix that right there. That's my bad there. I'll make it a completely public, no code. So thanks for bringing that to me. I will do that for you guys as soon as we sign off here. But again, thanks for the quick prompt feedback there. But I will take care of that. So that in a nutshell is the presentation. Again, my name is Adam Juarez, and like my good friend and mentor John Cripple says, when you have a session with me, you have free tech support for life. So please feel free to reach out to me here on my contact information through email, through social media. You can find me on my website there, techcoachjuarez.com. Message me today, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. I hold myself to responding within 48 hours. So yes, this is what I do. I enjoy doing it, connecting with you guys. Any way I can help you on your sketchnoting journey, I definitely I am up for the challenge.
Awesome. Right. Thank you so much, Adam, for this great information. It's definitely, I love the hand-brain connection for our kids, since they are doing so much digitally right now. So it's a great reminder to keep that hand and brain connected.
Yep.
So, any questions from anyone in the audience? Mostly just well wishes and thank yous, getting a lot of shout outs. So
thank you guys.
Feel free, or we'll head on to your next session.
Yep. Have a good rest of your Saturday.
Adam, where was the place to get more middle school examples?
Let me pull that up right now. Hold on. Chat right here. Those are all middle school ones. Again, social studies and language arts have the most, but we have some science ones and a few others, but yeah, that's where they can get them.
Great, thank you. That's wonderful. All right. I dropped in Sylvia Duckworth's link to her Sketchnote Fever page.
All right, awesome.
I've been sending the kids, what I was doing at the end of each day was watch this Sketchnote video on your own time, and then come back and I'll read a story and use Sketchnote as we go in the story, just to get their feet wet. And so if the story had animals in it, I gave them her animal video to watch.
All right.
Just a quick way to, because she's got the tutorials basically broken down.
Yeah.
And so then it wasn't me trying to learn sketchnoting and teach it
Yeah.
because her directions are so simple and easy to follow. So
Yeah, she's got a lot of great resources of how to use how to do it if you have like a touchscreen.
yeah.
She's got a lot of great apps for that. So I mean, not every kid has that, but for those who do have it, it's
Yeah.
definitely worth checking out.
Bridget, this will be Plan the Perfect Week starting at 10:50. And I'm going to actually shut this down so I can get a different recording. And
Okay.
so, and then you can join the waiting room again. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions, Amber? I just don't want to kick you out and think that I'm being mean.